Hi guys!
Hey everyone!
Welcome to Make 2 and another Sims FreePlay original design. It is almost Halloween where we are, and like we usually do, we want to do a haunted theme for the holiday.
Yeah, nights are getting longer, it's getting darker, earlier, more time is spent, it's looking gloomy and dreary and a little bit spooky outside. So I think it's the right time of year, whether you celebrate Halloween or not, to get in the spirit of being frightened by creepy things.
So in previous years we have done haunted houses, but this year we are aiming for something a little bigger. This is a haunted asylum.
So creepy.
Yes, an asylum is another word for a mental hospital. It's kind of the ultimate creep factor thing. I don't know if you guys have ever seen Supernatural, but in one of their very earliest episodes, they went to a haunted asylum. Yeah.
There's also all of season 2 of American Horror Story, I think, was set in an asylum.
Oh, there you go.
Asylums also is interesting. They started really in the Victorian era.
Mm-hmm.
So there's something just that kind of pseudo-Gothic style. There were places to kind of look after people, but then they often got abandoned. And yeah, creepy.
Well, they might have looked after people, but they might also have done really bad things to people who were supposedly the ones they were looking after.
Yes.
So we'll see some of that in this version as we go along. Alrighty, so we begin with the front door. As you can see, is right over here. This double pair of haunted doors in between these two lion statues, which are really grim looking.
They are grim looking, but it does imply this place, obviously it's really big, and does imply that when it was made with a lot of money.
Yes.
It was at some point. Maybe it profited off of the inmates or the patients who were resident here.
Ooh, yeah, they really are creepy looking. Okay, anyway, let's
Menacing.
walk in through the front door. We've already got our ghostly items inside going crazy. But basically what you'll see is, as we said, this is an abandoned asylum. So that means the furniture in here is not going to be set out in like a fancy, orderly, organized way. It's going to be basically all over the place. It's like the asylum used to be in use and operational, but since it has stopped being used, it's now become a haven for crime, ghosts.
Yeah, maybe it went through a period of being used for crime or people who didn't have a home or were using it for nefarious activities, and now it's gone beyond that into just full-on. All the evil that was done here over the decades and centuries has
chased away the criminals.
and just made the whole place evil with spirits and festering ghosts who never got their justice.
We'll see a few of those walking around.
Okay.
So, as you can see, this is the main front lobby area, and there's just furniture scattered all around. But to signify that you are in a haunted place, we have a skeleton lamp over here. So just a note, by the way, the house lot with this special fence and sidewalk are, of course, from the haunted house, which you unlock by completing the Ghost Hunters quest in the time limit. That's the prize for completing it in the time limit. And then I think just from completing the quest, you unlock a lot of haunted items, which you will see throughout this build. Now, on either side of this large lobby, there are 2 staircases, so we'll follow those upstairs later. But let's just go sort of maybe down the hall this way.
Okay.
As you can see, the hall is only accessible through this rusty fenced door. And that's because in an asylum, a mental hospital, you need to have a good security system in place because you never know what's going to happen. And as we walk down, you see a creepy portrait on the wall, maybe the person who established the mental hospital. You see more furniture and boxes randomly strewn in the hallway. And then you go, let's say this way. And this is the dining hall. Or what used to be the dining hall.
Relatively neat. We have 2 guests or residents, long-term residents of this place. Neither of them look particularly happy.
This sparkly ghost is kind of happy, but, she doesn't look that, I don't know.
She has the run of the place, I guess.
Yeah. It's not that neat. I tried to, make the tables and chairs a bit scattered. Again, that idea of the place being abandoned. And over here, by the way, is where, back in the day, the inmates... Would you call them inmates? The patients would have gotten their food. They would have lined up at this food counter, and the staff would have, given them their trays and whatnot. And just a note, out the back here is a garden, which I guess the staff would have used for garden vegetables and things. But unfortunately, now they just have a really overgrown monster weed.
Yes, that maybe has had its fair share of patients over the years as well, as perhaps has that well.
Yes, and
well as a
what?
As a common place
Wait.
in horror stories for people to be down there and then they turn into ghosts and evil spirits.
But you're thinking that the monster had eaten some patients as well?
Yeah, maybe. Why not?
Oh my gosh, that's so grim. That's like much darker than I was even planning to go.
It's Halloween.
Wow.
It's a haunted asylum.
Oh my gosh. Anyway, further down the hallway, this used to be, I would say, an office of one of the doctors, so that's why there's a desk here, but notice that the desk is turned the wrong way around, because, again, who knows what has been happening in this massive abandoned building over the years. On the other side of the kitchen, and also accessible from the front hall, but again, behind these rusty fenced doors, is what would have been, I guess, a break room for some of the patients. So, they would have, watched TV, if they had TV, and lounged around on their sofas. The furniture is a bit beat up, as you can see, because it's just nobody's been taking care of it. Now, if we go down the next hallway over here, again, you get more furniture. You have randomly a cardboard box, which was set up for a child's tea set. Who knows whether there were children patients here?
Either they were children patients who got eaten by a monster plant, or they were adult patients who were acting like children.
Either way, super creepy. Let's see. On this side of the hallway, you have another one of these offices where a doctor would sit. Here you actually have the couch where a patient would lie down and tell the doctor their stories. Here's the doctor's chair. Here's the doctor's bookcase. That room is still, I think, in relatively good shape. Over along this side, we have a few more offices. Again, this would have been for another of the doctors on staff. This over here was an office, but now has turned into some kind of, I don't know, shrine to something evil and nasty. So, yeah.
Let's not go in there.
Let's not spend too much time in there, but it's not being used anymore for the purposes that it originally had. Over here, we have the bathrooms for this floor. Let's say one was for men, one was for women. You've got sinks in each. Well, actually, this one doesn't have...
It's missing one.
It's missing one. It's probably
smashed out by
Yeah.
Somebody looking for parts.
Smashed out or removed. In the individual stalls, you see one of the toilets is completely turned the wrong way around. Over here, one of the toilet stalls has no door because it was just removed or abandoned. One of the toilets is missing and replaced with a bunch of clothes. Who knows why?
Okay.
Now you can see our pirate preteen has skipped over here and is looking kind of fearfully at this door at the end of the hallway.
I'm getting nervous.
It's not such a big deal, but basically the staircase goes down here into the basement. What you have is what used to be the laundry room. I think somebody probably stole some of the machines for parts at some point. Then over here you have the boiler room, which services obviously the whole building.
Mm-hmm.
Now down here, this is standard fare. This is not even going to be the scariest thing in this place.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, past this really nasty door, you get this sort of underground passage that zigzags this way. And you have, your standard dungeon in the basement, right?
Yeah, standard basement dungeon with coffin-shaped bath.
Well,
no bed.
There are 3 cells. So one of the cells, and they're cells. They're all scratched up because obviously whoever was hidden down here was not in a good way. And whoever was down here, maybe they had a toilet. Maybe they didn't. Maybe they only had a coffin-sized or a coffin-shaped bathtub. Poor dudes.
For whatever they needed.
Yeah. Like I said, that's not the creepiest part of the building. Okay, let's venture upstairs to the middle floor. Now, this staircase over here just opens out onto an open hallway kind of thing. That'll get to some patients' rooms. But before we do that, if you were not a patient, if you were staff, for instance, and you were following the security system, you could go in here, walk back a little further, and this is where the medicine would be distributed. This faces the common room, upstairs common room. There was a downstairs one, but there's one upstairs as well. So the nurses would stand back here, the patients would line up here, and get their little plastic cups full of pills.
We've all been there.
if you went down this way, let's say, these are divided into male and female sides of the hospital. So there are a bunch of rooms here for patients. They're pretty standard, but again, because things have been kind of crazy over the years, the beds don't all make sense. For instance, there's a bed in the hallway here.
Maybe there was just overcrowding at some point in the asylum. There's also a baby's bassinet, I see.
Yeah, who knows why. Spooky baby, maybe.
Yeah.
Further down the hallway, we have the bathroom that these patients would share. So basically, pretty standard. You have stalls. Again, this one is missing a door and missing a toilet. These are the grimy showers they would have used. I really like the fact that this floor tile, which came from the laundry event, is kind of grimy and dirty. So I loved using that.
And I think the double sink you've used there has that very old style vintage look to it as well.
Yeah, exactly. So going this way, you have kind of a similar setup with patients' rooms. The bathroom over here.
Oh, there's some...
Okay, lady. She's made a mess.
But she's not alive? Is she a ghost?
Well, maybe the story with her is that she used to be a patient and she doesn't realize that the hospital has closed down, but she's gonna take her time.
She's gonna live amongst her own vomit for her remaining years.
I don't know what Sims do. It's all weird.
We don't control them.
So let's say you're a patient who does not play well with the other patients. The staff would probably evaluate you and decide you needed to be kept away from the other patients for, however long you were troubled for. They would probably take you up this staircase on the left side of the building. The staircase comes out onto this sort of skinny upstairs hallway. On either side of the hallway are some rooms. The rooms are all white, tiled on
this
floor.
Is like a padded cell.
Yeah, padded white cells. The sad thing about these cells is that you don't know how long you'd be stuck in there. You might be stuck in there long enough to turn into a skeleton.
Yeah, there's no windows.
No windows, definitely. You might be stuck in there long enough to become a dancing teddy bear.
That'll take some of us longer than others.
Or you might be a patient who believes you're a dancing teddy bear.
Cool. Happy days. I've been thinking about 12 Monkeys while you've been doing this tour, because there's at least one asylum in that movie.
So you remember how I said that the basement and all of that were not the most spooky and creepy part of this build?
And the padded white cells
also not the spookiest and creepiest part of the build. The problem with the padded white cells is that if you were a really troublesome patient and the staff did not want to deal with you anymore, then you could be taken into this room.
The experimentation room?
The experimentation room, yes.
Goodness.
If you found yourself unfortunate enough to be in this room, you might find yourself on a table with a harsh light overhead.
Yeah.
And
chains on the wall.
Chains on the wall, scratch marks on the wall, scratch marks on the floor even.
Yeah.
There's basically a nasty sink.
Or an altar, perhaps, depending on... on the doctors who are running this asylum, what their real motives are.
Again, it's abandoned, so it's kind of a mess. So this table and these clothes are sort of random. Let's say that this was where people were initially processed before experimentation happened. You might think that this was a massage chair. Yeah. But in fact, it's not. It's...
lobotomization chair.
Yes.
To lobotomize people. Like in another movie set in an asylum, Sucker Punch.
Right. That's where I got the idea from.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. And if you thought of escaping or misbehaving, you'd have another skeleton here to remind you that that wasn't possible.
A former patient.
Now,
nice.
Just on the other side of here, this is a slightly more innocent room. This is basically just an attic room with lots of furniture and randomness.
Maybe just where they locked up patients who they didn't want to let go, but...
Or the place where the failed experiments were stored right after they failed, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. So a grim asylum in its day when it was active, more grim only with passing years. And now clearly that evil, as we said at the beginning, has imbued itself into the very fabric of the building and the ground, so it's become super haunted and creepy.
Yeah, we're actually haven't finished with the grounds. The thing is
really?
that at the end of the hallway downstairs here, there was another of these rusty fenced doors.
Yeah.
And that immediately lets out onto this path. You
that's
see.
Nice. There's a pond and a duck and trees.
Sure. And
cool. Happy ending.
The path is, as you said, lined with these trees, and it is kind of crookedly wandering through the grounds.
Yeah, that's nice.
Back and forth, zigzagging. The trees are guiding you along.
Well, thanks everyone for watching. This has been lovely.
And where does the path let out?
Oh, yes.
It lets out onto the graveyard.
With somebody trying to come out of their grave. At least 2 people trying to come out of their graves.
The thing is, an asylum should not really have a graveyard, if you think about it. Like we said, it's a hospital, it's meant to take care of its patients. But unfortunately, this hospital had a really dark legacy and a dark history. And that is why there is a graveyard on the grounds. Because there were a lot of things, a lot of secrets that they needed to keep buried.
Okay, I've got 2 questions, unrelated to the build really. When you were growing up, was there ever a creepy house in your neighbourhood or in maybe a relative's neighbourhood that you would be too scared to go near?
Not that I remember, actually. I lived in quite a nice neighbourhood.
There was an abandoned house, I think, I was young, near where one of my aunts lived, and I never went up to him. You know, my brother said, go knock on the door, and I didn't. The other question for you and for all the viewers, how much would somebody have to give you in cold, hard cash to spend a night in an asylum like this? Now, in real life, I don't think it would be haunted, it would just be really scary. But how much money would you need to have to spend a night here?
Or would you be paid in candy, maybe?
I'd want cash. Cash or nothing. And I don't know the answer for myself, but I would be very interested in knowing what your limit would be. $1 million, $10 million, $100. Let us know in the comments.
So a night. All by yourself in a place like this.
Yeah. You have a flashlight, you have a blanket, you have your phone or something so you can watch videos or whatever on. You can distract yourself with entertainment, but you're there alone, inside the building, all night, from dusk till dawn.
Curious. Alrighty, well, let us know, guys, in the comments how much your price would be. And also let us know in the comments what you think of the build. And maybe even also let us know what you're going to dress up as for Halloween, if you're going to dress up as anything. So in the meantime, if you are new to our channel, feel free to subscribe because we've got plenty more Sims FreePlay on the way.
Thanks for watching.